In a recent broadcast, Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile, addressed Biafrans with a powerful message. He told them to get ready to take over their heritage. Simon Ekpa criticizes the Nigerian government for not respecting international and domestic laws, especially concerning human rights. He discusses how Nigeria has violated several international human rights treaties, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. He accuses Nigeria of failing to uphold its commitment to these treaties, specifically through alleged kidnappings, torture, and the arbitrary detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and other Biafrans. Simon Ekpa also mentioned a UN working group that gave Nigeria a 6-month deadline to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He highlights Nigeria's non-compliance and points out the implication of this for the country's legitimacy on the international stage. Simon Ekpa introduces a plan for Biafra to become an independent state by ratifying international human rights treaties, setting up a government that abides by these principles, and aiming to restore peace and order in the southeastern region of Nigeria. Simon Ekpa notes that on December 2, 2024, Biafra planned to declare its restoration and ratify United Nations human rights treaties to demonstrate commitment to these standards. Simon Ekpa also condemns Nigeria's alleged extrajudicial killings, detention of Biafrans without trial, and support of terrorism. He views the independence of Biafra as the solution to achieving peace, stability, and human rights for the people in the region. In this speech, Simon Ekpa aligns the Biafran cause with international human rights principles, positioning it as an alternative to what he described as Nigeria's failing system. He also emphasizes Biafra's commitment to establishing a state that respects rule of law and human rights as part of its push for independence. Our story begins with the country called Nigeria, a place known for culture, resources, and diversity of people, until corrupt people took over the country. But according to Simon Ekpa, Nigeria isn't living up to its potential. Simon Ekpa stated that Nigeria has become chaotic, lawless, and ungovernable, a place where the people don't feel safe. The government doesn't respect its own laws, and the international agreements it has made are just empty promises. Simon Ekpa's view of Nigeria is that it is a failed state, meaning that the government has lost control not just over the people, but over its moral compass. He believes that the leaders are no longer in touch with the needs of the people. They have ignored the very laws they are supposed to uphold and the international standards they agreed to follow. Right now, Simon Ekpa talks about Nigeria. He's not just making complaints for the sake of it. He's talking about the actual struggles that the Biafran people are facing every day. He talks about how the government has mistreated them and how instead of protecting them, it has done the opposite, arresting and detaining those who speak out, sometimes without any trial for years. For those who may not know, Biafra is a region within Nigeria, and the people who live there, that is the Biafrans, have a unique identity, culture, and history. In the 1960s, there was a civil war in Nigeria, a conflict that saw Biafra trying to break away to form its own independent country. That war ended in 1970, but for many Biafrans, the desire for independence has remained strong. They feel that Nigeria has never treated them fairly and that their voices are still not being heard. So this idea of Biafra is more than just a word. It is a dream for many Biafrans, a vision of a place where they can live freely with respect for their culture, history, and rights. Simon Ekpa believes that Nigeria is so broken that there is no way to fix it from within. For him, the only solution is for Biafra to stand on its own as an independent nation. Simon Ekpa's speech dives into the story of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, a key figure in the Biafran independence movement. Nnamdi Kanu is well known among Biafrans as a leader who speaks up for their rights and openly calls for independence from Nigeria. But in Simon Ekpa's eye, what happened to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu shows just how far Nigeria has fallen from respecting basic rights. According to Simon Ekpa, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was adopted in Kenya and brought back to Nigeria without due process, a move that violated both Nigerian and international laws. This, he says, is an example of the government's disregard for the rights of its own citizens. Simon Ekpa is not just saying this as an opinion. He points to an actual international working group on arbitrary detention, a group set up by the United Nations which looked into Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case and agreed that his detention was illegal. This group even gave Nigeria a specific time frame to release Nnamdi Kanu, but Simon Ekpa says Nigeria ignored it entirely. Imagine that, being told by an international body that you are breaking the law and then doing nothing about it. This, Simon Ekpa says, is how Nigeria shows its disregard for both its own people and the global community. One thing that stands out in Simon Ekpa's speech is the irony he highlights. He talks about how Nigeria recently sought to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, an influential group in the UN that deals with international peace and security. Simon Ekpa finds this strange because, in his view, Nigeria isn't acting like a responsible member of the international community by detaining Nnamdi Kanu and other Biafrans without fair trials. Nigeria is going against the very values the UN stands for, such as human rights and justice. For Simon Ekpa, this ambition for a global position is a hollow goal if Nigeria can respect its own people. He believes that Nigeria's actions have lost its legitimacy, not just in the eyes of Biafrans, but also in the eyes of the world. Simon Ekpa believes Biafra is the solution to Nigeria's problems. In his view, Biafra isn't just an idea, it is a vision of a nation that respects human rights, upholds the law, and brings peace and stability to its people. He sees Biafra as a place where the government would follow international laws, treat its citizens with dignity, and foster a sense of unity and pride among the people. But for Simon Ekpa, this vision isn't just wishful thinking. He talks about a plan to make it a reality. There is a convention happening in Finland on December 2nd, 2024. And this, he says, is where the Biafran government will begin its journey to becoming a legitimate, internationally recognized state. At this convention, Biafra will sign international human rights treaties to show its commitment to peace, justice, and respect to human rights, principles that Simon Ekpa believes Nigeria has ignored. To Simon Ekpa, signing these treaties isn't just a formality, it is a promise to the people of Biafra and to the world. These treaties are agreements that outline basic rights and protections, ensuring that no one is detained arbitrarily, no one is tortured, and everyone has the right to be heard in court. By signing these treaties, Biafra would be making a commitment to protect its people from the kinds of abuses he says they are currently facing in Nigeria. This is a stark contrast to the Nigeria Simon Ekpa describes, where he claims the Nigerian government has detained thousands of Biafrans without trial, sometimes for decades. For him, Biafra is the answer because it will offer protection and respect that Nigeria has failed to provide. At the heart of Simon Ekpa's message is hope. He sees Biafra as a beacon of light in a region that has seen too much suffering. To him, Biafra's independence isn't just about politics. It is about creating a safe space where Biafrans can thrive, free from fear and oppression. He imagines a country where children can grow up knowing their rights will be respected, where families can live without a constant fear of violence, and where people can speak their minds without the threat of imprisonment. Simon Ekpa's commitment to this cause is deeply personal. He knows there are risks involved, but he's willing to face them because he believes in Biafra's future. For him, it is not just about independence, it is about justice, about doing what is right for the people he represents. Simon Ekpa says he's willing to stand anywhere in the world to defend this vision, to explain why he's leading this movement and why he believes it is the only way forward. He talks about the sacrifices he and others are making, the dangers they are willing to face to ensure that Biafra becomes a reality. He is clear about one thing: this isn't an easy path, but he believes it is the only path to true freedom and security for his people. Simon Ekpa's speech also contains a strong message of resistance. He says that when people's rights are violated and when they are detained, tortured, or oppressed, they will eventually fight back. According to him, that is what is happening with Biafrans. They are tired of being treated like second-class citizens in their own land, and they are ready to stand up for their rights. Simon Ekpa believes he's leading this fight not out of hatred, but out of a deep love for his people and a desire to see them live in peace. He talks about the concept of pushing back, that sometimes when you are up against injustice, you have to push back to defend what is right. For him, this isn't about violence. It is about standing firm, about saying enough is enough. He believes that by standing up, Biafrans are showing their strength and resilience, proving that they won't be silenced anymore. One of Simon Ekpa's key messages is that Biafra could be an example for others. By creating a government that respects human rights and follows international laws, Biafra could inspire other nations in Africa and beyond. Simon Ekpa envisions Biafra as a country that not only takes care of its own people, but also contributes to global peace and justice. In his mind, this is what true leadership looks like, and he hopes Biafra can set this example for others to follow. I'll play the video for you guys to watch and see for yourself.
Today in Nigeria. That's why Nigeria has become ungovernable and Nigeria has become a failed state, because they do not have the rule of law and they do not respect their own law, not to talk of treaties they are assented to. Biafra will provide a solution. One of the solutions is we will abide by these rules and norms of international treaties and conventions that we will be ratifying during the convention in Finland. So, what is the working group that gave Nigeria ultimatum to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu that they kidnapped from Kenya, extraordinarily rendition to Nigeria under torture, inhumane treatment, degrading treatment, and what have you? The of deprivation of liberty imposed arbitrarily and inconsistently with international standards set forth in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or international instrument accepted by the state concerned. That is what this working group is all about. The working group investigates alleged cases of arbitrary detention, like in the case of thousands of Biafrans, including Mazinam Bikano. They do this by sending urgent appeal and communications to concerned government, just like they have done to Nigeria, to clarify and or bring the attention of these cases, which they did to Nigeria. They gave Nigeria 6 months. The working group also considers individual complaints. So as you are, like those families that Nigeria have killed, murdered their relative, they can also individually file complaint directly to this particular group. Under its regular communication procedure, leading to the adoption of opinions. So when you file this complaint, they give opinions as to the arbitrariness of this detention. In addition, the working group conduct country visits to assess the situation of deprivation of liberty in the country. That is the primary objective of this working group on arbitrary detention that gave Nigeria 6 months to release Mazinam Bikano, and also fine Nigeria to compensate Mazinam Bikano monetarily. Nigeria violated this opinion of the working group, which is a direct violation of the United Nations Charter on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which Nigeria also assented and signed into their own law and accepted. They will abide by these rules and regulations that makes you stand firm in the Committee of Nations. So any country that is violating this kind of laws with impunity have lost every legitimacy, including within the United Nations. And this same Nigeria was at the UN General Assembly seeking to become a permanent member. A permanent member of organization that you violate their own laws and treaties. My fellow Biafrans, I just want you to have a little background knowledge about what I'm about to explain this evening, why Biafra is bringing an alternative, not just by ratifying the United Nations International Human Rights Treaties at the convention in Finland, but also making sure that we abide by these laws and treaties to make sure we restore peace and order, because that is the only pathway to peace and order in the entire region. Any country that is violating this right with impunity is bringing anarchy, and that is the reason why there is a lot of anarchy in Nigeria, because they do not respect rule of law. They are nomadic, they are Islamic State. The only agenda is Islamic agenda. I will also need to inform you that many Islamic countries did not assent to some of these human rights treaties. And that's exactly the direction Nigeria is going. Or they are already in that direction. So Biafra is an alternative to restore peace and stability in the Sahel and beyond. My fellow Biafrans that are listening to me today, I want you to understand that there are some of these, at least you are going to hear from me, some of these international human rights treaties of the United Nations that Biafra government will be rectifying during the convention of the Biafra in Finland. My fellow Biafrans, you may need to understand the concept of these treaties and what it bounds to do. What are the indicators of these treaties, which will become one of the backbone of the Biafra government as we pursue the recognition of the government of Biafra after the convention, after the declaration of the restoration of independence of Biafra, and we have formed a legal document from the convention, and this ratification of treaties will form a major part of the document that the Biafra government will form during the convention in Finland. So the indicator referred to as a state, that consent, a state consent to be bound by the human rights treaties under international law. So when you as a state consent to this international treaty, you are bound. You are bound by those treaties to make sure that you stand by that treaties, and by doing so, you restore peace and stability in your country and in your region. The reason for the insecurity today, apart from the kidnap of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Nigeria violated that particular treaty. They did not bound by it. So what is the rationale? When a state ratifies one of the international human rights treaty, it assumes a legal obligation to implement the right recognized in that treaty. Do you understand the word? When a state ratifies, like Nigeria ratifies this law, Nigeria, if it's supposed to be a country, under international human rights treaty, Nigeria assumes legal obligation, obliged to implement the rights recognized in that treaty. And what are these rights? Do not commit the crime of kidnapping people. Do not commit the crime of arbitrarily detaining people. Do not commit the crime of torturing people. Do not commit the crime of depriving people their liberty. Nigeria have committed all this crime against the Biafran people, especially Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And they are still standing on this crime that if heaven is going to fall, let it fall. That's where we are today. We are still settling the matter. Now, through ratification, states undertake to put in place domestic measures and legislation compatible with their treaty obligation. The state also commit to submitting regular report to the monitoring committee set up under the treaty. Now, how can Nigeria now submit a report on how they are implementing this right, which they signed into, by arbitrarily detaining Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, detaining thousands of Biafrans illegally? So they are going to write a report that, oh, you know, Biafrans are agitating, so we catch them, we kidnap some of them, we distribute them to different parts of northern Nigeria, and they are not going to court. As a matter of fact, we have thousands of Biafrans inside the prison, and there is no trial, and some of them have been there for 20 years. And they will write, is that the report they are going to write to the United Nations? In accordance with the treaty Nigeria signed? The answer is no. They can't even write a report. Not to talk of writing what they are doing. So Biafra is coming to ratify these particular treaties and provide solution and alternative to Nigeria. That's what we're doing, to make sure we safeguard the life of our people, and no sane human being can have a contrary opinion or go against Biafra becoming a nation, in order to restore peace and stability in the entire Sahel region by following this particular rules and regulation of the international law. So you see, the reason we are sacrificing everything, taking the risk we are taking, is for humanity. So everybody can at least enjoy some level of peace. Now, this particular concept of the international treaties mandate the state to commit to submitting regular report on how the rights are being implemented to the monitoring committee set up under the treaty. Who are this committee? The working group is part of the committee set up by this particular treaty. The committee that have mandated Nigeria to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, not only Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but his own case is more of, gaining an international attention. Now, this committee, Nigeria, for ratifying this particular treaty, is mandated to submit a report to this committee that they are snubbed, violated their own ultimatum with impunity. So, which face would Nigeria use to challenge the Biafra government when we are here to say enough is enough with your impunity, enough is enough with your supporting of terrorism? We are not even talking about them funding terrorism, giving them all guns and arms to fight and kill indigenous people to take over their land in the name of Islamic State. We are not even talking about that yet. We are talking about only the arbitrary detention of innocent citizens, so-called innocent citizens, arbitrary detention of those who were exercising their right protected under this United Nations treaty. That is what we are still addressing. We are not addressing their terrorism and how they are killing the people, extrajudicial killings and all that. No, we are only talking about this particular detention of innocent people. How Nigeria violates this law with impunity that lead to the anarchy that you see today. Because the solution to prevent anarchy, to prevent instability, has been laid down in all these principles and treaties that we are going to assent to. And once you begin to violate it, you are opening and creating a loophole for anarchy to come in, because people are going to resist it. When you violate people's rights, using gun and bullet, think you can use them to suppress them for a long time? No, at a point they will fight back. And that is why I am leading the fighting back against Nigeria today. And I will stand anywhere, anytime in the world to defend how I am leading the pushback to fight against the terrorist state of Nigeria with our guns and bullets. What is the concept of this treaty? A state party to a treaty is a state that has expressed consent by an act of ratification, accession, or succession, and where the treaty has entered into force, or a state about to become a party after formal reception by the United Nations Secretary of the state decision to be a party. A signatory to a treaty is a state that provided a preliminary endorsement of the instrument and its intent to examine the treaty domestically and consider ratifying it. No action means that a state did not express its consent. Nigeria expressed its consent in ratifying these treaties that they are now violating, and Biafra is the only alternative to bring to an end to the impunity. No, so my brother Biafra people, I want to quickly inform the entire Biafra people some of the international human rights treaty under the United Nations that Biafra government will ratify through the convention in Finland on the 2nd of December. I want to inform you, we are not only declaring the restoration of Biafra on the 2nd of December, but we are also ratifying the United Nations international human rights treaties and become party to these treaties to abide by these rules and regulations in order to restore peace and stability. Nigeria have not done that for decades. We are going to provide that solution. So, on this note,
this is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.